Hello, my dear friends. Today, we will discuss the situation in Ukraine on the 31st of January 2025. We have lots of very interesting updates, so let's get started. The Russians managed to improve their position significantly. This is the map by the end of January 30th, and this is the map by the end of January 31st. As you can see, several territories were captured by the Russians and confirmed by reliable sources. Let's begin with the settlement of Shunova. In this video, published by the Ukrainian side, we see an attack by a Ukrainian FPV drone. That's it, nothing more. The Russian vehicle was destroyed exactly at this point. Most mappers have adjusted their maps as if the Russians were attacking from the city of Taz in the western direction, exactly as shown on your screens. However, to tell the truth, who knows? Maybe the Russians were attacking from the settlement of Shunova. Perhaps it's not so easy to attack this way, which is why most mappers colored their maps in favor of the Russians based on an easier attack route. However, I'm not entirely sure how exactly the Russians were attacking. For now, we will keep the map as it is because we believe that during the next several days, this entire pocket will collapse, and the Russians will take full control of this area. Furthermore, according to different mappers, the Russians managed to secure at least 50% of the pocket between the Zabala district and Npiavka. This means that most likely, when Ukrainians began the retreat process in the northern direction towards the settlement of Shunova, this became another reason why we adjusted the map in this way. We believe that during the next several days, everything inside this red line will be captured by the Russians, making further adjustments unnecessary. Currently, the Ukrainians' main stronghold in this area is not even a true stronghold but more of a temporary deployment point they use to control the situation in the Tur direction. This is a mine, and the Russians have begun attacking this territory, first with FAP strikes and most likely with multiple launch rocket systems. This suggests that this may be the next target for the Russian armed forces. Most likely, within the next 5 to 7 days, we will see the first attempts from the Russian side to attack this industrial zone and its facilities from the northwestern part of the city of Thias. If the Russians can secure this stronghold, they will be able to shorten the distance to Konstantinovka from the south as much as possible. Now, let's discuss the situation in the city of Chavar. Heavy clashes are ongoing in this area. The Russians have most likely stabilized the situation in the northwestern part, as reported by various mappers. Now, the Russians are shifting their focus to the southeastern direction. According to available information, during the past 24 hours, the Russians have improved their positions in the vicinity of the Shenko microdistrict. In this video, we can see a Russian soldier moving through the fields, securing the territory. Based on this and several other video clips, we have adjusted the map for this part of the city of Chavar. The Russian offensive in this area is intensifying. For example, here is the situation as of January 28th. The Russians were far from the southern microdistricts of Chavar. By January 29th, they had secured some elevated positions near the Zemin microdistrict. By January 31st, they had taken control of another part of southern Chavar. The noose around the settlement is tightening. There is still much work to be done, but it seems likely that Chavar will soon fall into Russian hands, leading to the battle for Konstantinovka. However, before launching a full-scale offensive on Konstantinovka, the Russians need to improve their positions along the N32 road. Despite multiple attempts, as we discussed earlier, those efforts have not yet yielded the desired results. Moving on to the Tver direction. In the past 24 hours, we haven't received any updates. In the southern Skopin direction or the Lyen direction, the Russians have published multiple videos of their attacks on Ukrainian forces in forested areas and fortified networks, but there are no significant changes on the ground. Now, let's discuss the situation in the northern Kopin direction. Based on geolocated footage, we have received some of the most critical updates from the past 24 hours. The Russians have significantly improved their position on the Ukrainian side of the Askil River. The size of this bridgehead is expanding, and the Russians are likely gathering critical mass in this area. Within the next 2 weeks, they will likely continue to fortify their positions, but within the next 2 to 3 weeks, We should expect a full-scale offensive aimed at breaking through the Ukrainian defensive belt, defeating Ukrainian forces in the Har direction, and possibly encircling the city of Kin. This could allow them to regain control over territories lost during the Ukrainian counteroffensive of 2022. Based on the video we just discussed, we have marked one part of these positions. Later, we received another video from the settlement of Novominsk, showing Ukrainians monitoring and filming Russian positions in this area before launching an attack on the edge positions of the Russian armed forces. Federation with FPV drone. Based on this video, we have adjusted another part of the map to show the river. If we calculate the distance between the northern part of this bridgehead and the southern part, it is already around 16 kilometers. Obviously, this is a very large bridgehead that the Russians can now use to their advantage. Furthermore, as you can see according to this map, the Ukrainians do not have many significant or strongly fortified positions between the border and the city of Kupiansk. The Russians face no barriers and no major obstacles when advancing between these two defensive lines. The first defensive line extends from the city of Alchevsk towards the Oskil River, while the second defensive line runs from the river near the reservoir to Kupiansk itself. Now, the Russians can advance between these two lines, and the Ukrainians will be unable to stop them effectively. If the Ukrainians want to halt the Russian advance, they will be forced to commit a substantial number of forces. Most likely, in the coming weeks or months, the Ukrainian command will issue an order to withdraw from this defensive line towards the southern defensive positions. Otherwise, Ukrainian forces could face encirclement with little chance of escape. The Russians are advancing quickly when encountering strongholds and fortifications, but when facing areas with minimal defenses, their progress will likely accelerate even more. Now, let's discuss the situation in the Svatov direction. In the past 24 hours, we have received many important updates. The most significant information comes from the settlement of Stelmakivka. The Ukrainians continue their attempts to counterattack Russian forces, slow down their advance, and prevent them from capturing the settlement of Stelmakivka. However, we see that the initiative is entirely in Russian hands. We have received numerous reports from various independent and reliable sources confirming that intense battles are occurring around the settlement of Stelmakivka. This suggests that we are only a few days away from receiving video footage from within the settlement itself. Additionally, significant developments are unfolding in the southern part of Svatov. Several pro-Russian but reliable sources have once again reported that the settlement of Makiyivka has been completely captured and secured by Russian forces. Furthermore, these sources indicate that the Russians did not stop at the Makiyivka line but continued advancing further northward. Several sources claim that Russian forces have now entered the settlement of Zarykhin and that heavy clashes are taking place within this small village, which is already part of the Svatov direction. If this information is accurate and we receive further updates confirming the Russian attack, it will mark a complete disaster for the Ukrainian armed forces in the Svatov sector. Should the Russians manage to dig in and break through Ukrainian defensive positions, this could lead to the creation of multiple encirclements. In recent days, we have begun receiving numerous reports from Russian sources about alleged criminal activities committed by Ukrainian troops against civilians in this area. We discussed these concerns months ago, and one of President Zelensky's primary challenges in the Svatov direction is not just holding defensive lines to prevent Russian advances but also addressing the civilian situation. The real issue for Ukraine at this moment is how Ukrainian troops treated civilians in this region. It is highly likely that we will soon witness reports, perhaps not thousands, but certainly hundreds, detailing serious offenses committed against civilians in this area. Russian media has already begun publishing articles and videos accusing Ukrainian forces of crimes in settlements such as Rubizn and Kremina. This is only the beginning. The deeper the Russians advance and the closer they get to the border, the more reports of alleged crimes will emerge. That's it, dear viewers. Thank you for watching. Stay informed and take care of yourself. See you next time.